Hello, friends, and welcome to the boot room. It's been a tough week, but at the end of it, there's a chance for Town to get a much needed win, and it has to be a win. Forest Green Rovers at Portman Road this weekend. Forest Green, bottom of the league. And Andy, nothing else other than a win will do.
Yep, bang on. How can there be any other outcome that's satisfactory for Ipswich from a game like this? Bottom of the league, haven't won a game since December, haven't won away since July, which is even be talking about football matches in July is mad, but they've not won an away game in the league since then. Town are in a place where they need to string wins together, and if they can't begin that run with this one, something's very, very wrong indeed.
Just on the bigger picture, obviously, Town slid down to fourth. We know they're not in the best of form. 1-1 in the last 8, 4 in the last 15. You've written something this morning, though, about a window of opportunity in these next 4 games. 4 games coming up against sides in the bottom 6 in the table, kicking off with the bottom side. An opportunity to get 12 points on the board, and it has to be 12 points, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've been talking for weeks, months about Ipswich's need to not just win games but string them together. There's still no back-to-back win since October. That's far too long for a team who at the long parts of this season have had automatic promotion aspirations. It's hard to look at those places right now with kind of any serious hope of getting there. But if they are, and there is still a chance they can do it, they're going to have to put their winning run together. And if you're presented with 4 games back-to-back against teams in the bottom 6, just go out there and win 4 games in a row, please, Ipswich. There probably won't be a better opportunity. There certainly isn't this season a better opportunity than this to do that. So Forest Green's the first one, but it's certainly not the only one that needs to be won.
Okay. A lot of chat has been around rotation in terms of issues with Town, and we've done a podcast around this, and Stuart has written an excellent piece kind of looking at the various reasons for Town slide. So go and read that if you've not read it. Go and listen to the podcast if you've not listened to it. But rotation has been chief among the kind of cause for concerns from fans, saying that's why this slide is happening. So in terms of the team for tomorrow, Andy, always a narrative around the team. We know there are injury problems in centre midfield, but there has been a lot of rotation, particularly at the back, and all season there's been rotation up top. So it is way too simplistic just to say pick an 11 and just start that every game now going forward. But how do you think Town should approach this one?
Well, there's been one unchanged side from Ipswich all season, and I'm not sure going with an unchanged side from the one that laboured at Bristol Rovers on Tuesday night is the way to go. So on the one hand, yes, we're saying rotation's maybe been a bit of a problem, hasn't brought that continuity, hasn't allowed for the momentum. But on the other, I think you have to accept going into this game that there probably will be some changes, and that's fine. On this occasion, I've got a team written down that I think I would go with on this occasion, and it involves some changes, and it also involves some areas of the team that I would describe as some healthy rotation. So it's a touch of a hypocritical edge to that. But should I read out what I've got and which of those areas are kind of negotiable, if that makes sense?
If you read out your team, and then you can maybe say as you go along how you think it might differ from the actual team.
Okay. Well, Christian Walton would be in goal for me. We've discussed him in depth in recent weeks. I would stick with him. He's the number 1 goalkeeper for me, so I'd stick with him. I've got a back 4 of Harry Clark, Luke Wolfenden, Cameron Burgess, and Greg Lee at left back. That's a change of both full-backs from the game at Rovers. I think Clark, you got to hope he's going to have another game like the Morecambe game. Probably got the higher upside in terms of the right back. I'd want to get him going in that. Lee, I just think that Davis has been used so much. Just that I think Lee gives that strength, a bit of robustness. He can attack as well. He's got some of Davis's qualities. I'd like to see him in this game. This isn't a Leaf Davis is kind of out of the running though. But I like them both, and I think Town could use them in tandem a little bit more. Wolfenden and Burgess in the middle. We don't know yet if George Edmondson's good to go. If he is, there's a question there over maybe replacing Wolfenden, maybe replacing Burgess. But on the whole, I'd go with them again. I thought Burgess was arguably their best player Bristol Rovers on Tuesday. So I'd go that. Central midfield, as you've said, there's injuries. I'd really hope that Massimo Luongo's close to playing again now. And if he is, I'd start him ahead of Cameron Humphreys, who's showing some signs of just having too much on his shoulders for too long a period, alongside Morsey. It may well be that Morsey and Humphreys have to go again, but if Luongo can be factored in, I'd go for that. Skip straight to the top of the team. Freddie Ladapo is the starting striker for me. I'd go with him. And then the three behind him would be Broadhead on the left, Chaplin, the leading scorer, in the middle, and on the right, Caden Jackson, who had two fantastic games against Burnley in the FA Cup. And I'm a bit surprised he's not started sort of the league games, at least one of the league games that's weaved in between them. So I'd give him a go.
Within that side, and we've said you can't just pick 11 players and play them every single game because clearly it doesn't work and it doesn't take into account loss of form and injuries and things like that. But within that side, as we enter this game, are there any players you absolutely want to see start pretty much every game now? You mentioned Connor Chaplin, the leading scorer. He's been in and out. Surely he has to start every game now, doesn't he?
Yep, he'd be one. Walton would be one.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them stick with a centre-back pairing. Wolfenden and Burgess had a real good run earlier in the season of the two of them as a pair and made those spaces their own at one point. We've often discussed Wolfenden and Edmondson perhaps being the higher upside pairing, but if you've got Wolfenden and Burgess in there, maybe you can get back to the form of the previous spells of the season with them, stick with something there. Obviously, Town have had that consistency in the centre of midfield with Morsey and Evans for long spells. Evans not available. We don't know how long he's going to be out for, but it does sound like he certainly won't be back this weekend. So there's them. Broadhead, they've spent a lot of money on Nathan Broadhead. I'd want to see him get up to speed from the left. There's some fitness issues there, but Chaplin, as you say, is a nailed on. He's the leading scorer, the biggest goal threat on a consistent basis. So he has to start every week for me. And then the strikers, both of those strikers, Hurst and Ladapo, are going to need to play significant roles in both in every game. So Ladapo's a better starter than he is a substitute for me. So on that basis, that's probably what I would do. But there has to be some flexibility. We acknowledge that, don't we? We know that it's unrealistic to go the same 11 every week for 15 games, but partnerships.
Yeah. In terms of that rotation, they've used 4 different centre-backs this year alone in 3 different pairings. And obviously the striker has frequently been something that gets changed. The most consecutive starts for a striker this season, Freddie Ladapo, with just 3 back in December. And obviously that was before George Hurst arrived at the club. In terms of the opposition, Andy, I don't want to spend too much time talking about Forest Green because it is all about Town, this game. But what are we expecting from them? Clearly they're in all sorts of trouble. I think they're 7 points adrift of safety. They've played more games than everyone else around them. They've not won since, as you say, December the 10th. They've only won that one away game all season. That was the first game of the season at Bristol City. So they're in dreadful form. But they do have a new manager who's not actually managed to achieve a victory yet, but he's a proper legend, Premier League legend, Everton legend, Duncan Ferguson. Conventional wisdom suggests they'll come to Portman Road and do as everyone else does, apart from the top teams, and just make it really hard for Town and sit in that defend deep, the low block. I know you hate that term, and try and hit them on the break and make it as hard as possible for Town to break them down. Is that what you're expecting?
I think there has to be an element of that. I think they would be they'd be naive not to. Under their previous manager, Ian Birchnell, they were a bit more open than you might expect than for a team that's likely to have been battling relegation. We don't know enough about Duncan Ferguson. This is his first one of these kind of games that they've had a home game, a couple of home games in there, but their away trips have been to Morecambe and Shrewsbury. So this is kind of the first sighting of a Duncan Ferguson team going to somewhere like Portman Road, which I'm sure he's really looking forward to it. It's a big ground, sort of his surroundings again, what he's used to, those big occasions, packed grounds, 24,000 at least going to be at Portman Road for this one. So he'll be up for that. Don't know what he's going to put on the field, but I feel sure there'll be an element of just not leaving yourself vulnerable to being carved open, because that would be naive. But who knows? Who knows? And that's part of the fun of this game, I think.
Absolutely. Before we get to your actual prediction, Andy, we said this is a must-win, and clearly it is. The next 4 are all must-wins. Does it matter how Town win this game? If they have like a 3 or 4-0 win, great, and that will make things feel a lot better. But if it's a scrappy 1-0, 85th minute winner, that kind of thing, will that in any way make any difference, do you think?
I mean, a win's a win for me. You can't get too head up about the way that they got it, but clearly that where Town are at the moment, what's needed is a bit of a flex of the muscles. That would help no end if they could go out there, show what they can do, and do what they should do, really, which is comfortably beat Forest Green Rovers. That's and no disrespect to Forest Green, but it's what Ipswich should be doing, isn't it? Let's be blunt about that. But a win's a win. I'd be happy with a win. But obviously you wanna see a bit of something as well, a bit of a spark. Just to see Ipswich with their spark back again would be a bit of a twinkle in the eye, and the bit between their teeth. If you go back to the Morecambe game, the last time Town won the Morecambe game, and speaking after that, talking about them being an angry team, I think we might get a little bit of that.
Yeah, and they scored early in that game as well. Obviously, They scored inside the first minute, didn't they? Do you think there's any danger atmosphere-wise that it might be a bit nervy if say, it's still 0-0 at half time and Town are facing that, everything they generally face this season, that low block, and really having to work hard to break things down? You worry if there's going to be an element of kind of nerves in the atmosphere.
Yeah, maybe. But that's where the fast start's key, isn't it? Town are at their best when they start games fast, and make their impact early. So that's on it. That's on the team. The fans will be there. This is 24,000, 25,000 people going to be there for a game against Forest Green Rovers. That's a huge crowd for League One. They're there to watch their team before the match. They will be there They will give the team all the backing that they can possibly give them. Start fast, Ipswich, and you'll have a comfortable day.
Yeah, special day as well, obviously, with the Sir Bobby Robson tributes and stuff going on around the game. Before we get to your prediction, Andy, and I know it's a big one, let's pause, shall we, for some key stats around this matchup. There we go. Then that's all your key stats around the game. The only key stat that really matters, though, is if Ipswich Town are going to win this game. Andy Warren, tell us what you think is going to happen in this one.
I think we will see an angry Ipswich. I think there's obviously been a lot of discussion about the state of things at Town since the draw at Bristol Rovers on Tuesday night, and I think we will see an angry Ipswich come out, start fast with pace, tacking down those flanks, and I'd hope for an early breakthrough. I'm confident Town will win this. No, I'm going to say they're going to win this 5-0. I really think. Look, it's not going to change loads, is it? We're not going to be walking away from Portman Road saying that they've beaten Forest Green 5-0. They're going to win the league, but it might settle things down a little bit, and I'd back them to do that.
That is exactly what we need, though, isn't it? A big win. I mean, there's something special about hitting the 5 mark as well, isn't there, in a game, to really kind of calm some nerves down and start to build that momentum back up with this opportunity against the next 3 games after this. I'm going to be slightly more circumspect and say 2-0. I can see it being a bit of a nervy, hard to break down sort of affair. But either way, we're both saying win. It has to be a win. If you're going to the game, enjoy it. If you're not, follow it all with us. Stu, Andy and Ross will all be there. And we will see you on the next version of the Boot Room.